Thanks for checking out Guardians of the Green Beret. Today we present Merrick Donnelly. He was sent to us a while back by a number of people that work with him and hear him continuously boast about being a Green Beret. So while we were trying to collect data, we acquired a video of him on a podcast talking about 17 years special operations and missions he went on, and talks about selection. So we reached out to him and he agreed to send in an email apology. He admits he wasn't a Green Beret, and he actually says he told the podcast guy to not bring up his military history. So we reached out back to the podcast guy, and he counters that with saying Merrick gave him free range to talk about anything and everything, and afterwards he said it was great. So you have to ask yourself, do you believe those 6 people that say he boasts about being a Green Beret all the time and the podcast guy, or do you believe Merrick when he says he's never gone out of his way to pretend to be a Green Beret? He was just misunderstood and never corrected it. So here's a video that's about 15 minutes long with Merrick in his own words, and then immediately following that will be our first phone call with him. We'll have a link down in the description section to the second phone call where we called him back and asked him for some follow-up questions. All right, out here.
Because 17 years in special operations, I've called him everything in the world in special operations, and he's been completely okay with me. But a Green Beret has been in special operations again for 17 years and has served at the highest level. And so, welcome to the show, Mr. Merrick Donnelly.
Kelly, thank you. That's a great introduction. And if that would come out of your mouth, that I'm one of the most inspirational people you've ever met, that's high praise coming from you, because you've met some of the greatest people that I've met and that I've heard of. So, thank you for that.
This man, honestly, is an action figure. First of all, if you're listening, if you took Chuck Norris and Rambo, smashed them together, and then took them to another elite level, that would be Merrick. You have to go through to be able to become a Green Beret like yourself?
Oh man, so I would say that I always thought that would be a cool route, like every other boy on the planet, right? We talked about Rambo today. It's like, oh man, that'd be so cool. But the realistic nature is that's not for everybody, and I certainly didn't think it was for me. I wasn't the most fit. Always, I was a big kid. I had a big frame, but I certainly wasn't working out when I was a kid. I was active, but aside from that. I would say the opportunity presented itself. I excelled in early training, and so the opportunity presented itself, and I decided to go with it. And the funny thing about Special Forces selection, okay, is that they don't take the best of the best of the best. You would think that all the guys coming out of there are like 6'4", all super jacked and like highly intelligent. What you end up getting is a lot of those guys who come in, they can be pompous, and what you end up getting is truly the people that graduate this program and leave, the ones who were selected, at least back then especially, is people who were disciplined, people who were easy to get along with, people who connected well with the people either above or below them, people who were intelligent and adaptable. And so I came through. I barely qualified to even get into selection, and I did well. And it's not because I was fit. It's not because I was the fastest. I wasn't the strongest. I wasn't the smartest. But I had a lot of devotion, a lot of dedication. I sweat blood and tears, and I don't quit. And
what does the day look like? Like, what does the day look like when you're training? And to help me understand, take me into like maybe the first couple days of the training that you go through, and help us to understand the percentage of the people that go in and the percentage of the people that actually make it.
So that's changed a lot. The percentage of graduates have changed a lot over the course of years. It used to be something like 30% attrition, or 70% attrition rate, 30% of graduates, rough, somewhere in that ballpark. I don't have exact numbers. That's changed a little bit. Standards are lessening.
Okay.
There's less people who are opting for that course in life. What makes special forces is that they work together, that they adhere to a team, that they rely on someone as an expert. This is the guy we go to for the weapons. This is the guy we go to for medical. This is the guy we go to for commo. This is the guy we go to for intel. And you rely on each other. You don't look over your shoulder because you know your friend has got your back. So rules of engagement are a set of conditions in which you are allowed to re-engage a potential enemy. So in the early Iraq days, the rules of engagement extended someone carrying a firearm. Okay, if they're carrying a firearm and they have both hands on the weapon, it's at the low ready or something, then they posed a threat, and the rules of engagement said that they could be open fire on. And this all changes based on the theater commander, whoever that is. And then slowly but surely, as the conflict there started to slow down, so too did the rules of engagement tighten. Okay, and so it went from anyone with the weapon in their hands to anyone with the weapon up and pointed, right? And then from there it goes, them opening, like shooting, like firing the weapon, and then it goes to, most recently, in some areas, firing with the intent to make contact with you. So it's not even enough that someone has the weapon and shooting. I mean, they could be shooting into the air, or shooting above your head, or shooting, somewhere else. And if you can't determine that it's being an act of aggression against you or your unit that you're with, then you can't engage with that. How do you know when to shoot back, right? How do you know ultimately? How do you know when they cross that line? Like, what's the consequences? And in my answer, I go back to a good friend, a young man who just recently deployed. He had some anxiety about going overseas, and he had a sidearm, and he was not in the conventional military side, and so he's doing some stuff in another country, and he said, "Well, what do I do? What do I do if I feel like I need to shoot my weapon?" And I said, "Shoot your weapon." And he says, "Well, what if I'm not allowed?" And I said, "Would you rather be, carried and buried by 6, or would you rather be judged by 12?
So take us to your first mission.
You're incredibly excited until the bullets start flying.
What was your first mission? Like, where do you go? Paint the picture if you can.
My first combat?
Yeah, your first combat when you send it.
Yeah, I was young. I think I was 22 years old. We were flying into a place just to pick somebody up, and it was a very hot area at the time, very, very hot. And all we were going to do is pick up as this individual, a bad guy that they had recently found that we wanted to talk to. And it was going to be simple: fly in, pick him up. We already had him. He was already in custody. We're just going to grab him and go. When we landed, it was a hot zone. Everything became super chaotic. I remember standing. They usually have like the lowest rank guys, the newbies, kind of like in the position of like highest threat. It's just a natural thing, Like you can't lose the commander of the unit, right? You gotta sacrifice the pawn, and that's just a matter of reality. And so it sucks, but it's the truth. And so there I was, the pawn, on the front of this helicopter. All of a sudden, the whole world lights up, and that's the moment where I said, "Oh, this is cool." No, it's not. This is scary. This is really scary. And I froze in the doorway, and I was just a big open target. We were probably, I don't know, maybe 8 feet off the ground or so. And my squad leader kicks me in the back off of the helicopter, and I land on my chest. I have my rifle. I land on my chest on this rifle, and then they quickly land on the ground and they start pouring out. And I didn't even see that part. That was behind me. But I stood up like an idiot on this helipad. Incoming fire. And my squad leader came behind me, and he hit me in the back with the weapon and knocked me onto the ground again. And so then he yells in my face, lots of expletives, which I'll save you from, but crawl to the sandbags. And so I look forward and I see these sandbags, and they're being hit and they're bouncing towards me. And that was probably, despite all of the scary things I've been through in my life, well after that, I can't remember a time I remember being more afraid. I was afraid, for sure. And so, I crawled to these sandbags. And we were firing, and I didn't even know what I was shooting at. I mean, I had moments where I froze. You never know how that first time is going to come. You never know how it is. There's a saying that says, all plans fail at first contact. And that was certainly true for me. That was certainly true for me. A funny ending to that story is at one point my weapon jammed and I couldn't get it to work. And so I was trying to figure it out, and my squad leader had noticed it, I guess, apparently during the fight, because he is so seasoned that he could fight and then still keep his eyes on his soldiers and assess them afterwards, right? And so, which is a sign of a great leader, by the way. And after the fight, he came up to me and he was like, when I mean by after the fight, I mean like in the recess of the fight, after we got out of there and then refitted and stuff. He says, "What happened?" And I said, I couldn't, my weapon jammed. I couldn't figure it out. And then he goes, "Is that what happened?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You need some situational awareness." To which I looked at him and I was confused. And then he points at my weapon. When I looked at the weapon, there are these acronyms, sports, all these ways to slap, pull, observe, release. And it's like ways to perform a check on your weapon to make sure it's functioning right, which I did, and it still wouldn't work. Then I looked at my magazine, and there was a round that went right through my magazine. Well, Kelly, my rifle's up on my face like this.
Oh my
so
God.
That round passed through the magazine at some point, and it jammed up the magazine. So I was trying to reload this broken magazine, right? And now, as an experienced veteran, I would just eject that magazine. Even if I didn't notice the hole, it wasn't working, I'd eject the magazine, and I'd switch a new one. But, I froze up. I didn't know what I was doing. And it was a valuable lesson for me that I wasn't calm, and I needed to be calm, because calm brings precision.
So on the next mission that you go, does that engage right away, or is it a progression? Because there was I believe it was on your 4th or 5th mission, where you were Australian rappelling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
In the 2nd, 3rd, was it the 5th mission that you were?
That was the 4th.
That was the 4th. Okay, so in the 2nd and 3rd one, have you calmed yourself a little bit, or are you still kind of? I mean, because I wouldn't be calm in 2nd and 3rd. I mean, bullet comes through the magazine, like, I mean.
Well, I would say that's definitely definitely something that we're all still working on.
Okay.
There's no such thing as a perfect calm. There are circumstances where even now, as a veteran, a combat veteran, there are things that I would certainly lose my composure over. However, what I will say is that first mission, we were under fire for weeks. It took us like 2 weeks to get out of there. Wow. So and a lot of the boys who were stuck in that valley, it was nonstop fighting for like 2 weeks. And so, I would say by the end of that 2 weeks, I felt pretty confident in my ability to handle my weapon.
Okay.
I saw things in my leadership that were inspiring, and I modeled myself after them. You don't know how many combatants are out in the field, but you can still look over and spot that one of your soldiers has a malfunctioning weapon due to a hole in the magazine. I don't know how we saw that at the time. I had no idea how we saw that. He saw that because he cared for his people, because he was looking left and right. Are people hit? Is everything okay? How's ammunition going? How's everyone doing? Assessing. And he was looking for ways to lead us out of that situation. He was looking for, while engaged in combat, he was looking for the next step. And that's another quality of a leader is, don't be so absorbed in the moment that you cannot look for the next step. Because if you did your job right, you train the people that work with you and for you to take care of the situation at hand. You need to look for the next step.
What's another time in combat that you saw a leadership trait that just blew your mind that a person?
There was a situation where we were kind of pinned down, and I use that term loosely when I say pinned down. But he stood up. He said, "Okay, so we're moving to this area over here. We were repositioning, and we were getting ready to split the group into pincer them, right? And so we applied our our fire to help, like it's cover fire. So we have people kind of pop up, spray the area down, and then we start making our movements. Well, the problem is the next piece of cover was a decent amount of ways away. It's probably 50 yards, which is quite a run. Okay? It was a really unfortunate location we were pinned down at, and so he was the one to make the run, and he did so. And I asked him later on, I wouldn't say I asked him, I almost questioned him, right? Like, why did you make? He wasn't even the fastest, he wasn't the fastest, and he was the one in charge. I said, why did you make that run? And he said that the run was so dangerous and that he had faith in the second in command enough that he didn't want to make someone else make that risk. He had a Hail Mary, and he took that Hail Mary, and it paid off. But he was not going to ask someone else to do something that he wasn't willing to do.
What was some God moments that you had?
Well, there's many moments that come to mind. Many moments that come to mind when you say that. I said earlier, I talked about how you learn to just trust and rely on each other. And it becomes, you get to know each other so well, and you live together, you train together, you eat together, you sleep in the same close, confined quarters, and for long periods of time. You learn each other's strengths and weaknesses, and I would say that in most situations, in almost all combats I've been in, I stopped and thought, man, that could have went a whole different way. But it didn't. I relied on training, relied on my friends. Mm-hmm. They relied on me. And I know you're looking for a specific time. And I can tell you, Kelly, that's just almost too many times to count. Mm-hmm. There is no science to fighting, not like that. It's like chess, but chess is not a good representation in some ways, because chess has a limited amount of moves. There's a science to it because it's so narrow. But so you're trying to predict how your friends will act, how the enemy will act, and you don't even know them. You have an idea about your friends. You have an idea, a close idea, but there's innumerous variables, and you at the end of it, whether it went good or bad, the combat, you're left sitting there thinking, could I have done something better?
How do you release it? Like, where do you let it go? Or
you don't. You don't. It's trauma. It's grief, and you carry grief with you always.
Now you can listen to his song and dance when we called him the first time. The second call will be in a link in the description section when we called him back after he sent us 2 emails out here.
Hey, Merrick.
Yes, sir.
Hey, brother, getting ready to do an article on you and wanted a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, may I ask who this is? You're calling from a private number?
My name's Steve Anson, Guardians of the Green Beret. We received about 5 or 6 emails and a video of you claiming to be a Green Beret, 17 years special operations.
Okay.
Well, what do you have to say about that?
Special operations intelligence worked alongside.
The video that we have and the emails we have clearly state Green Beret Special Forces, a combination of Chuck Norris and Rambo. You talk about combat. I have your records, and they'll be in the article. You talk about selection. You weren't even airborne, brother. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you were not even airborne. You never attempted selection, much less the Q course. You were, what were you, 35 Mike with the 300th and the 45th Infantry? You served for maybe...
Yeah, that's all correct.
What's that?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah, you weren't a Green Beret, were you? Have your come to Jesus moment. You were not a Green Beret. We have access to ATARs.
Yeah,
I have your whole, what's that?
That's correct.
All right. You were never in combat either. And you were talking to that podcast guy about, shooting some sandbags or the sandbags being shot up, coming at you.
That's actually not true. That's actually not true.
Now, you have 0 campaign ribbons. You do not have a CIB.
Not in the service. Not in the service.
I guess you mentor new soldiers and stuff down there in Texas. We received, I think, 5 emails that say you really hype your Green Beret experience, your Green Beret qualifications, your Special Forces history. That podcast said you were
I actually do not. I do not.
So you're calling all those the 5 guys that emailed us liars, and that podcast guy a liar? When he said you were 17 years in Special Forces, you never corrected him. You ran with it, and you talked about selection, how it's not the biggest, baddest. You made it sound as though you were a Green Beret.
And so, sir, what is it that you do?
We run a website. We expose those who falsely claim to be one of us. We're going to do an article on our website about you. We will send those results to those people that you work with, because they're the ones that reached out to us. You have no right to call yourself a Green Beret and pretend you're one of us.
Yeah, I understand.
No, you don't understand. How long ago did you start pretending to be a Green Beret?
Not long.
What, 5 years, 10 years?
No, not even close. Not even close.
Well,
It was a misattributed assumption, and I just kind of let it ride.
Well, you not only let it ride, you turned it up to level 10.
Really not my intention.
Yep. Well, do you think
That's really not my intention?
It might behoove you to maybe send us an email and apologize and show contrition? We will include that in the article if you want. You might want to tell everybody you work with that you are I mean, how are you going to tell them at work that you're not a Green Beret when they sent us emails saying, I could read you that. I could read you the emails. They said beyond doubt he mentors these young kids and claims to be a Green Beret.
Well, I do a lot of mentorship, but I make no claims of anything.
Well, so those people are all liars?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Do you think you want to send us an email apologizing for pretending to be a Green Beret when you're not?
Yeah, that could be something I can do.
Well, I would suggest that it's contact@guardiansofthegreenberet.com.
Okay.
Do you think you'll remember that, or do you want to write it down?
What did you say, contact?
Contact@guardiansofthegreenberet.com.
Okay.
Hey, I'll look for that. The best time to do that is like right now, when it's fresh in your mind and you're motivated. You want me to reach out to that podcast guy, or you want to reach out to him? It's going to blow him away.
I'll talk to him.
Yep. Well, I guess that's
so what exactly does this all mean?
Say again?
What exactly does this all mean?
Well, it means that we're going to expose you as a fraud on our website, send the link of the people that sent us emails, the 5 people that sent us emails, and I'm sure that once they see the article, will share it with others that they know beyond doubt you've claimed to be a Green Beret with. I think your sister believes you're a Green Beret. Doesn't she?
No, and actually that's not true. No.
There's not much reason to continue the phone call unless you have anything to add.
No, just simply, sorry for the confusion and the issue.
There's no confusion, dude. You just flat out lied. I mean, listen to that podcast again, where you talk about going through selection and all that stuff. There's no confusion there. You'll see the emails that people send in. They're not making this stuff up, are they?
Would you mind if I got some of the names?
Oh, no, we never give out names. We never give out names. Sometimes we have family turn family in. We don't do that. That's not how we roll.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And you could understand that,
Sure. Yeah, sure. Surely can.
Yep. So I guess moving forward, you're not going to be a Green Beret anymore?
No. I can assure you it'll never happen. I wish there was something I could do to convince you not to. And I can drop everything. I can ask the podcast guy to take the video down.
Well,
come clean to him.
I assume he's going to do that on his own accord. He's not going to want him out there. What a big Rambo Chuck Norris guy you are,
Well, there is more to the story. I'm coming clean to you for sure. Okay, you're correct. You're correct in your assumption. But as far as the combat stuff goes, as a contractor, I have the scars to prove it. I can show you where I've had many injuries as a contracted agent in Kandahar, Afghanistan, and Camp Hero in 2018. So that's actually where some of the rumors got started. I'm a kind of a roadmap of scars that got leaked out, and it kind of just is what it is. I should have caught it early. I should have came clean about it, not let it ride, but it just happened, and it's pretty disgraceful. I apologize for that.
In 2018, that's when you were with headquarters of 45th Infantry, Norman, Oklahoma.
That was National Guard. I was contracted out, so no, I wasn't. I was not actually. I didn't have a good year as far as like showing up to drill. I was overseas the entire period. Dude,
on a side note, what did it take so long for you to make E5? You were in E4 forever.
Yeah.
That's hard to do. Did you step on something?
No, just, I would say, differences of personalities.
Yeah, so.
During that period, it was actually pretty difficult. Not like it is now, or even before.
Right. Well, all right, hey, I won't take any more of your time. Go ahead and step up and send us that email. That might go a long way to be included in the article, and people will say, hey, he admitted it, he's sorry, and then they'll decide.
They'll decide.
They'll decide whether they believe you're sorry or not, depending on what you put in that email.
Yeah. Okay. I misunderstood what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And when I address this letter, who I address it to?
Guardians of the Green Beret.
Okay. All right.
Yep. All right. Out here.
So that's the first phone call with Merrick. If you've heard him claim to be a Green Beret or Special Operations or Special Forces or any of the above, send us an email. We'll redact your email address. So be vague but truthful. The second phone call could be heard in the link in the description section. Then you could go to our website and check out all the other fakes, frauds, and phonies we've posted over the years out here.